Question: has the mark of the beast system started in India? This is True News. I'm Rick Wiles. For the past 50 years, America's secret pre-tribulation rapture believers have assured Christians that they will be raptured away before the mark of the beast and the Antichrist appear. Well, tell that to India's troubled Christian population who are being compelled by the Hindu-controlled Indian government to have their fingers, faces, and eyes scanned so that they can be enrolled in Aadhaar. Aadhaar is the massive biometric identification registration project of the Indian government. It is administered by the Unique Identification Authority of India. Aadhaar, which means foundation, is a 12-digit unique identity number for every Indian citizen. A unique number is assigned to each citizen when their biometric data is scanned and entered into the national database. Aadhaar is the largest and most sophisticated biometric identification system in the world. All 1.2 billion Indians will be scanned and assigned a number, and the project is almost completed. It is mandatory that bank accounts in India be linked to Aadhaar. In addition to banking services, all government services are linked to Aadhaar too. When the system is finished, it will be impossible to buy and sell in India without participation in Aadhaar. Prime Minister Modi, a radical Hindu, is pushing hard for India to become the first cashless society on the planet. In 2016, Mr. Modi's Hindu government banned 85% of India's currency in circulation in a brazen attempt to compel people to accept a cashless society. Imagine here in America, the United States government suddenly banning all paper money and coins except quarters and $1 bills. With almost every citizen scanned into the database, Aadhaar is only the beginning in India. New Delhi also introduced in 2016 a digitized system called India Stack. It is a set of APIs that allow government agencies, corporations, and developers to utilize the Aadhaar ID infrastructure to propel India toward becoming a paperless and cashless society. India Stack enables citizens to store and share personal data, such as addresses, telephone numbers, bank statements, financial records, tax records, and employment records. The personal records can be accessed and shared with others via Aadhaar. Therefore, Indian citizens can use India Stack to open bank accounts and brokerage accounts, make investments, share personal records with anybody in India by simply scanning their finger on their phone. Although there has been little opposition to Aadhaar among India's non-Christian population, many Bible-believing disciples of Jesus Christ in India are outright alarmed by the government's insistence that they be scanned and given a number so that they may buy and sell. Much of the opposition is centered in Mizoram, an Indian state with a Christian majority population. One Christian man has persevered in his opposition to Aadhaar that his case has reached the Supreme Court of India. His name is John Abraham. His lawyer recently told the Supreme Court that Mr. Abraham, quote, holds all 66 books that constitute the Holy Bible as sacred, inerrant Holy Scripture. This includes the prophetic book of Revelation, end of quote. India Supreme Court Chief Justice Deepak Misra told Mr. Abraham and his lawyer that the Supreme Court will not discuss religious issues. Mr. Abraham informed the court that his son was denied admission to St. Xavier's College in Bombay because he was not enrolled in Aadhaar. The Christian husband and father is simply asking the court to allow his family to be exempted from mandatory enrollment in the biometric system. Joining Doc Burkhart with me today are Paul Benson, our Chief Information Officer, and Eric Rodriguez, our social media director. Gentlemen, glad to have you here today.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so we have Aadhaar in India. Few Christians in America know anything about it.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever heard a sermon about it. No. Nobody's discussing it in America. And yet 1.2 billion people in India have already been scanned into the system. This thing, I mean, they've already done it. They've already completed the scanning process.
And experts are saying if you're not in the system, then you're disenfranchised. Basically, you become unable to access any of the services of the Indian government. You become a ghost.
That's right. And this explains why in 2016, Prime Minister Modi suddenly, without warning, removed 85% of the paper notes circulating
Now
in
why did
India.
he do that?
Because he was forcing the Indian people to accept a cashless society, to drive the Indian people into this biometric system.
So they had to open a bank account, and to open a bank account, they needed a new digital ID.
That's right. And if you have no cash, you can't buy and sell because this new system requires you to be scanned and to do everything in a digitized manner.
Yes.
So it's already happened. China is well on its way to becoming the next cashless society. China has not started scanning their citizens, but it's already happened in the second most populous country in the world. 1.2 billion people have been enrolled in a biometric system, and nobody in the United States and among the Christians are talking about it. They're clueless that this is happening. So the Christians in India are saying, we want out. We don't want to participate in it.
Right.
But Doc, you read with me today some of the articles that we gathered today from India. Well, first of all, the first one is not from India. This is the Independent in London, and it says that India's big brother will start using fingerprint and face scans for food and benefits. Seeking to build an identification system of unprecedented scope, India is scanning the fingerprints, eyes, and faces of 1.3 billion residents and connecting the data to essentials like welfare benefits and
mobile phones.
Civil libertarians are horrified, viewing the program called Aadhaar as Orwell's Big Brother brought to life. If you look at the next headline, this is from Scroll,
yes,
which is a news website in India. And it says, the mark of the devil. Why a group of Christians in Mizoram are objecting to Aadhaar. Aadhaar, India's unique identity program, is being linked by some people to a fearful Bible prophecy.
In other words, they're kind of passing it off as saying, those crazy Christians,
they're just
believing in that stuff.
Yeah, superstitious, behind the times, keeping the society from advancing in the digital tech age.
What I'd like to know is, on the Independent article, it says that it was initially intended, so it started off to be just an ID to reduce fraud and improve the delivery of government welfare programs. Sounds good. Just like most of these large company, the government-run initiatives, they start off with this feel-good, we're going to help you, we're going to better your life, and so on and so forth. But at what point did all of it switch and the true story of the program come out to incorporate where it says, in order to have the essentials of life in order to basically function in India?
It switched on the first day, Eric.
Yeah.
That was the plan before it even started.
Absolutely.
I think one of the big questions when you see a system like this, where's the data going? Well, according to this article, it's actually heading to the UN. So the UN is one of the establishments that's actually taking this data, accessing it, collecting it.
It is the central agency that's collecting it.
And really, we've talked about this before, Rick, this is the test pilot program for the globe, right?
That's right. You're going to have a global brain. We heard in Davos months ago, well, we weren't allowed to go into the session, but we know that there was a seminar at Davos on the global unique identification number.
Right, and the banks want that. They want everyone to be identified so they can control the flow of cash around the world.
That's right. So this system is being built right now. So look, here's what we have. You got most American evangelical Christians who've been taught, you don't have to worry about it. You're going to be raptured. You're going to be
Right.
taken away. You don't have to think about this. You won't be around when the mark of the beast system appears. Well, it's already appeared in India.
Right.
And Indian Christians are dealing with it.
They're calling it the mark.
They are calling it the mark of the beast, and they've made it to the Supreme Court. And the Chief Justice said, this court is not going to listen to religious issues. We're not going to consider your holy book. I mean, the Supreme Court in India is Hindu.
And so now we're seeing fulfillment in India of the book of Revelation. You will neither be able to buy or sell unless you have the mark of the beast.
Yeah, and in one of these articles it says that those Christians, those believers who are not taking this biometric ID scan, they can't even get their food rations. So
You can't get anything.
Exactly.
You can't.
So they
you can't
can't
get
even
medical
eat. Yeah,
services.
exactly.
Can't go to school.
Can't get
do
paid.
anything.
Yep.
Can't get anything. So.
And they're rolling this out to the illiterate population as well. So, I mean, everyone, 1.3 billion people. So, I mean, here in the States, there are some people that aren't techie. Maybe they have a smartphone and they visit Facebook. But I mean, we're prime candidates for technology like this to roll out everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the arguments in India is, well, we're making it possible for the poorest of the poor to have bank accounts and access to technology. Well, first of all, if you're poor, why do you need a bank account, right? But that's the argument, all right, that they'll have a digital bank account. Now the government can put services into those accounts, and they can access it through. Of course, everybody's going to have a phone, all right, because
Right.
that's the agenda with the mobile phone industry. One of these articles, I think it was Scroll, is quoting some of the Christians, and they're quoting a woman in India who said, quote, "In our Bible, there is a prophecy that the whole world will be controlled by one group. This seems to be going that way. All the biometric data goes to the UN," just as Paul said.
Right.
So now this is the line that really is troubling. The same woman said, "The church will support the government. I still go to church, but outside it, I do my struggle against biometric enrollment." And the article also says, few churches in the state of Mizoram share the concerns of the Mizoram Committee Against Biometric Enrollment. On the contrary, the churches have repeatedly affirmed that there is
Yes.
nothing to fear from the program, and the churches are actively supporting enrollment.
And what does that tell you, Rick? That tells you that the Bible has not been taught properly. Because if it's been taught properly, then these warnings would be in place. The churches would know the truth about these types of
Doc,
situations.
here in the United States, the evangelical Protestant churches are going to do the same thing.
Oh yeah, they've even come out. Some churches have said it's okay to, take a biometric scan, even the mark of the beast. Just don't worship the beast. I mean, come on, where do you get that in the scriptures?
And what I've heard a lot of these guys say is that, well, this can't be the mark of the beast because we haven't been raptured.
That's right.
So don't fear, don't oppose it. We haven't been raptured, so it's not the mark of the beast. Well, I just want to ask these guys, would you go to India? I'm talking to the people that believe in the secret pre-tribulation rapture. Will you go to India and tell those Christians that if they go ahead and participate in this system, and they are cast into the lake of fire on Judgment Day, that you will take responsibility before God? Because that's what these people are dealing with.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're concerned about their soul. They're reading the Bible saying we cannot participate in it.
Yes.
But their church leaders are saying, no, you
Don't worry
can.
about
Go
it.
ahead, participate in it.
Right.
The same thing will be said in the United States. We will have churches in the United States that will be the scanning centers.
Right.
People will be told to go to your local church to get scanned. Now watch, it's going to happen in this country.
If you keep reading down that article, it says that the enrollment rate is 81.2% as of right now, and then that a lot of these people have just stopped attending church because they're not getting the support from their church in this initiative to not accept the biometric scan.
They stop going to church
Wow.
because the church isn't dealing with reality.
And it's not supporting them, not seeing them through, not standing up for what's right.
This really is the dividing line between people that participate in society and Christians. I mean, I see this line being drawn in the sand, and it's a concern because then we get pushed out of society. If we become, equivalent with the Amish because we're not taking the mark. We're not able to
get pushed in digital ghettos.
Yes.
So,
hey, I'm not against technology. I love technology, and I'm for all kinds of technology. But I don't want to be scanned. Don't tell me I have to be scanned. That's not true. You don't have to be scanned to participate in other technologies. There's a purpose for the scanning. It is to control the human population.
that's it.
We can do all these other things that are these other technologies that are being rolled out without being scanned and digitized ourselves.
Right.
There's no necessity for it, but there's a bigger plan. And the plan is to have total control of the population. Now, the next story, this one, when I first saw this one today, I thought, okay, I'm going to read it 3 times to make sure I'm not falling for an Onion satire, okay? But it's not satire.
No.
And the reason, and I say that because, look, I've talked about these topics for 20 years, but when you see them in mainstream news sites online, you got to look and go, is this really happening? Are they really talking about it?
In fact, when we saw it today, we were doing our background research on it to see if we could find it in other places. It's so incredible.
So the headline is, Government Accidentally Releases Documents on Psychoelectric Weapons. I've been talking for 20 years about psychotronic weapons. These are weapons that alter your body's physiological functions. And I've been told for many years that these weapons exist. And we also have talked about MK Ultra, which is a known fact. The CIA started MK Ultra in the 1950s.
Yes.
Mind control. And I have believed that many of these mass shootings that are taking place are actually mind control subjects, that they are being told to do these things. Doc, how many times have we read over the last 10 years, some horrible crime, mass shooting, some just horrific event. And when you read the article, usually the very first articles that come out the first day or two,
right,
they'll talk about the criminal heard voices in his head.
Right. I've got a sheet right here where we have 8 instances just within the past couple years showing Tennessee church shooting suspect heard voices. Florida suspect said he heard voices telling him to carry out massacre. Sister says alleged Walmart shooter heard voices. It's on and on. I mean, we can go 3 or 4 pages of these kind of events. That's the commonality for a lot of these guys.
Okay, so there are 3 options. The person is crazy, hearing voices. Number 2, the person's demon possessed, which goes with option number 1.
Sure.
They're insane, they're hearing demons, but the world won't admit that there are demons. Number 3, they're hearing voices being transmitted to them. It's called voice to skull transmission.
And this article that we came across today, not in some odd, magazine somewhere. We're talking about Popular Mechanics, the Daily Beast, several other places.
Daily Mail in London. So what happened is that there's a website that helps people file freedom of information requests with government agencies.
Right.
And it's called Muck Rock. And there was a gentleman, Curtis Waltman, who was writing to the Washington State Fusion Center. Now, these fusion centers came about after 9/11.
Right. Kind of a combination of several law enforcement agencies.
Federal, state,
right,
local, they'll bring all the resources together, an intelligence operation. You'll never know where they're at. Okay, they don't put a sign up that says Fusion Center, but all major cities have a Fusion Center. So this journalist, Curtis Waltman, went through this Muck Rock organization, filed freedom of information request. Now, listen to what he was looking for. He was looking for information about Antifa, the left-wing radicals, and white supremacist groups.
Right.
That's what he made a request for. what he received from the U.S. government, from the Department of Homeland Security, were these strange documents about mind control.
Yes, mind and body control.
Yes, mind and body control.
Yeah, he got a file that was labeled EM effects on human body.zip. So it was a zip file with these documents in it. He had no idea that he was getting.
So we're talking about reading and broadcasting thoughts, controlled dreams, microwave hearing, voice to skull hearing, sudden violent itching behind eyelids, all sorts of different bodily reactions, mind control actions. And this came in a Freedom of Information request about Antifa and white supremacist groups.
I don't know if we have if we've put them on the screen yet, some of the diagrams that are in this zip file. I'm talking about these right here.
Yeah.
There we go. And there's the headline, but then there's also some of the diagrams that are telling you what kind of things scientists are able to do. You were reading some of them. Forced memory and induced erroneous actions.
Forced manipulation of airways, including externally controlled forced speech.
And forced waking vision, some synced with body motion.
How about sudden violent itching behind eyelids?
That just sounds horrible, doesn't it?
Have you ever had sudden itching behind your eyelids?
Not today.
Not yet.
Induced changes to hearing, both apparent direction and volume, and sometimes even content. We talked about microwave hearing. That's the idea of the voice to skull transmission of voices. And that would explain a lot about all these mass shootings, that if they're hearing voices, is it possible that they were transmitted to them? Well, if we're looking at this document that was forwarded along, it's not only possible, it sounds like somebody's been working on it.
Well, this one diagram shows transmissions going from a vehicle through cell towers to the intended victim
Inside
that they're
of
trying to
houses.
manipulate.
Yeah, and houses and buildings. Like you're not. If you have this, if this is happening, there's no safe place. It's happening everywhere.
Way back, let's see, 1999, I had a private meeting with Stanislav Lunov, who is the highest-ranking Russian spy ever to defect to America. And I spent a couple of days with him in Dallas, Fort Worth. He flew in to meet me, and I asked him, this is 1999, I asked him if the Russians had psychotronic generators. And he said, yes. He said, of course they do. And he said, I heard, now he was in GRU, he said, I heard that the KGB used them to give Boris Yeltsin a heart attack.
Wow.
Now that's what the man told me in 1999.
Well, according to this then, it says, if you look on the diagram, once again, forced muscle quaking of large muscles in the body.
So they have weapons that can drive a person insane, that could make them sick, make people think they're crazy, give them heart attacks. How many assassinations have been carried out? And the doctor, the coroner, just writes, heart failure.
Well, how about all the diplomats there in Cuba, both Canadian and American, that have been experiencing these strange symptoms that they haven't been able to lock down yet? This seems like a plausible explanation for all of that.
The screaming in their head
Right.
that they can't get rid of the sounds.
And somebody right next to them won't hear anything at all or experience anything.
Yeah. So this stuff's real. And this isn't new. These pictures are old.
Yeah.
These diagrams are old. But here's the interesting thing. The man made the request, Freedom of Information Act, for information about white supremacists. Why did he get this in his Freedom of Information request? Now, the news media is saying it was an accident. It got slipped in there by accident. I don't think so. These radicals that we're told every day is doing these terrible things around the nation, I believe that they're mind control victims. That's why this was in that information package sent to this man. They're controlling these people. What do you think happened in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Hotel? What do you think happened at Parkland High School? These people are being told it's voice to skull transmission, and they're being told. Remember the guy at the Washington Naval Yard,
Navy shipyard.
the Navy shipyard.
Told him where to go.
He had top security clearance.
Yes.
He said the voices were coming from the Navy shipyard,
And he was trying to find them.
and he was trying to find it to stop it.
And if they're weaponizing cellular technology, what are they going to be able to do with 5G? There's
the
even
global-
more powerful
Oh, yeah.
cellular
Right, the
towers.
global-
That's a really
brain.
good question. Hey, we're only got a couple minutes, but I also wanted to talk about the announcement made this week. Bill Gates is backing a $1 billion plan to cover the Earth in Big Brother satellites capable of streaming live and unfiltered high-definition video footage of the entire planet. They're going to have low-orbiting satellites that will be pointing cameras to every inch of the planet. There won't be anything. By the way, if our audience is listening, if you hear that noise, that's the Blue Angels. They're in town right now.
Yes.
All right. So we have some Blue Angels flying over the studio right now. But they're going to build this network, worldwide network of satellites, low-orbiting satellites that will have powerful HD cameras pointed at the Earth.
Right.
They'll be able to watch you, Doc, in your backyard.
Right.
Wait,
So
Rick,
go ahead.
I thought, okay, how often do you spend every day just looking at Google Earth, just looking at the Earth and just observing it? How often do you do that?
Probably once a day.
Okay. Well, because they're selling this as they want to give us the ability to be able to see the Earth in real time in a higher definition, to be able to understand the planet and the one and only home that we live in.
Right. But they're
So,
selling it as a, hey, we're,
Yes.
now they said the number one thing that they want to do is stop illegal fishing.
Yes.
Now, you know where the leftists are going to go with this? Hunting, fishing, farming. They're going to be going after farmers, ranchers, hunters.
But we're smarter than that. We know that's not the real purpose.
The real purpose is total surveillance of the society. There's another network of satellites that are going up, which will be providing internet services. And some of these satellites are going to be just at 200 miles above the surface. Hey, that's it for today's edition of True News. Thank you for watching. God bless you. We'll see you on the next program.